everyone.
Hello.
Good evening. Welcome to the Lens Neighborhood Livability Association August meeting. I'll skip the announcements tonight, and because we have that in your agendas. To show respect for our guest speakers and your fellow members, please silence your phones. And later on tonight, we will have Sharon Meieran, who's running for chair of the Multnomah County Commissioners. Our first speaker will be Tony, Executive Director of 4D Recovery. And I turn it over to you, sir.
Okay. How you guys doing tonight?
Good. We're doing good.
You doing good?
Yeah.
Making some headway?
I don't know about that.
You guys see this the group is going to fix Portland? That's what she said.
We're working on Lens. We're working on
That's
Lens.
why that's the only reason I came.
I know.
No, happy to be here tonight. I've talked to different neighborhood associations. Like I said, my name is Tony Vezina. I run a nonprofit in the Portland metro area. We also have a location in Vancouver, Washington, Salem, Medford, and Bend. I got into the nonprofit work because I was a homeless drug addict on the streets of Portland many years ago. I just celebrated 14 years sober on July 20th. Congratulations. And after I got sober, one of the things that I had learned through 12-step programs that I went to was the importance of giving back to the community, giving back to other people who are suffering from addiction, and so I made that my goal was to help people. I grew up poor, had a rough childhood, got into drugs. My family's addicted to drugs, and eventually became addicted to Oxycontins. I'm sure you guys have seen everything that happened with the overprescribing of opiates. I got caught up in that. I wasn't prescribed. My mom was. A lot of opiates. I started using them and became really, really addicted. It was really, really hard to quit. Eventually became homeless and got sober for my daughter, my first kid. That was my motivation. And then I went to treatment several times. Went to jail several times, and eventually treatment worked, and I met people in recovery, similar to the people who were next door at that meeting. I go to those meetings too, and I changed my life around and started helping others, and I've done a lot of stuff in my career, and been part of a lot of really great things. I was president of Portland Community College when I first got sober. Learned a lot of skills there. How to politic, how to make things happen in the community, how to change laws and policies and stuff. And I do some of that work now. I do know Sharon. I've worked with her on several things, but not here endorsing her tonight. I'm here on behalf of 4D and nonprofits can endorse or oppose candidates. So I just want to make that clear. I got kids. I live in Portland. Outside of 4D, my wife's a real estate agent. We have rental properties in Portland. I understand the difficulties of livability here, both on the nonprofit side and on the personal side. It can be tough in neighborhoods. You don't feel safe. You have crime. People are vandalizing your stuff. People are burning down your buildings. I had a very large project through 4D, about $5.5 million, that got burned down a few months ago. Random person. I don't believe their intent was malicious to burn down our building and target us, but they caught the porta potty on fire. They looked like they were hiding me. I don't know. I haven't talked to the person directly. They were arrested, but it sucks, and I understand the position that people are in, and they want to see change. At 4D Recovery, what we do is we have 3 different tracks and programs, essentially. So we have sort of an intervention program to outreach and engagement. So we go find people addicted to drugs. A lot of people are homeless, or we get calls, or we're going to schools, whatever. And we find people, and we hire people in recovery like myself to go motivate them to start the recovery process. Being addicted to drugs makes it very, very hard to quit. It's not just like turning off the light switch for everybody. And, I analogize it to, if you've ever tried to quit eating bread or sugar or go to the gym regularly, these kind of little vices that people have, that could be very hard to change your behavior, right? And a lot of the drugs that are out now are extremely addicting and extremely impairing. And people have a really hard time quitting. And so oftentimes I hear people say like, well, if they just wanted it, like these people don't want it. Well, that may be true sometimes, but it's not universally true. I used against my own will over and over again. I wanted to quit. I wanted to be a better person. Did not want to live the life I was living. And I had all the resolve that you could have to change your life, at 10 o'clock on Friday, and Saturday morning I wake up and be at it again, And so we have these interventive services. We work with local PD. You may have seen like the shooting that happened at the library. The county asked us to go down there, do some outreach down there. We did that. We're pretty good at it, get, 1 to 2 people a week to enter treatment services, but it's a lot of outreach and engagement, interacting with them. And then we get a lot of referrals from the criminal justice system, and we get walk-ins, and people just know us, and they come. So that's one part of our organization. Go out and find people who need help, and drag them in, and, get them help, be persistent. Loving, but persistent. And you kind of got to sell it to people, and get them to do it. And then the other part of our services is more medically based, and it's clinical treatment. And clinical treatment is very similar to physical health. Like if you go to the doctor, they're going to do an assessment on whatever ailment you have, and then they're going to give you a diagnosis and a prognosis and a treatment plan. And say, okay, you're getting hip surgery. Here's the risks and benefits of it. Okay, you're going to have this recovery time. You have to do, so many physical therapy appointments, etc. Right? And here's what it's going to be like to recover. Well, it's the same way with people who have addiction and mental health. So, a clinician does an assessment on you and prescribes you a level of care. Oh, you're really addicted. You're going to have to go to medical-based services first because you could have some medical complications when you quit. Which is most concerning with like alcohol and barbiturates, because you have some real medical complications. But some people are medically frail, and so they kind of got to go get their physical taken care of before they get into this level of treatment. And then you have some aftercare, like your outpatient services, what it's called. So we do that part too, and we do it for adolescents and young adults, 14 to 17, and 18 to 35. The bulk of our services are in the 18 to 35 range. So find people, go out, people in recovery like me, engage them, intervene, get them to go to treatment, and then we'll provide the treatment to them. Not everybody, sometimes people are outside of our scope, we have to refer them out. But we'll provide the treatment, and we have some sober living as well, where you gotta be sober to live there, and you gotta go to treatment. Room and board's free. You got food stamps, you can buy your own food, but we'll provide you with some stuff, but you got to be going to treatment and participate in your recovery, not breaking house rules and putting your hands on people. I always tell people, don't steal nothing, don't put your hands on anybody, follow the rules. Real simple. It's going to be a rough road, changing your life. It's not easy. We're going to help you through it. We're going to, motivate you, hold you accountable to the rules a little bit, and love you through it as you develop. So we do that, and then we do this last part, which is these drop-in sober clubs, essentially. And that's how 4D started. So when I first got sober, I met some other young people, and we were hanging out in churches, going to AA meetings, and there was really no place to sort of socialize and be sober as a young person, because you want to do like the same stuff that other people do in leisure activities and socialize. But you don't want to go to the bar, you don't want to do that where like drugs and alcohol are like in your proximity. So we started this club for people who are sober, for young people, and we said, all the meetings, we're going to have dances, we're going to have fun events, it's all going to be sober. So we helped start that, and then we targeted working with treatment programs and say, okay, when you're done with treatment, we want you to come over here and hang out with other people in recovery. and have a fun time, because being sober is great. You know, it can be really, really great. It's challenging, but it can be really, really great and meaningful. And so then we have these drop-in centers. And the drop-in centers have people like me who are in recovery. And we go out, we find people who are starting their recovery journey, and we say, hey, come kick it with us. And the research is really clear. If you can get a person who's been addicted to drugs to the 5-year mark, their likelihood of relapsing drops to about 12, 15%, depending on the study, which is the equivalent of developing an addiction in the first place. So we provide this full continuum of services to people to set them up for the long haul. About 80% of the people who work at my organization are in recovery, aside from the HR department, and that was intentional, because being in recovery is kind of a small community, and there's a lot of people, but you know, human resources want that to be sort of separate from any of the drama that happens in the general recovery community. Because a lot of people go to meetings, they know each other and stuff, and so we just want to keep our HR practices clear. So that's all the services we provide. We engage about 2,000 people a year, and we also have an organization that we adopted that I helped found in 2017 called Oregon Recovers. And Oregon Recovers is sort of an advocacy organization, and me and a couple guys founded it because we know that people who have addiction can recover, and do. They do. A lot of people do. There's about 20 million people in the United States who identify in recovery. A lot of people try to keep it hidden because they're worried what people like you will think of them. You know, maybe you're in recovery, I don't know.
I was going to say, how many people in this room are?
Yeah, maybe there are some, I don't know. But you know, people hide it because they don't want to say it, you know what I mean? And so we started an advocacy organization to, you know, elevate the understanding of the problem to politicians, make it a politically salient and relevant issue, and then expand access to care, because Oregon had ranked really high having addiction rates, which you guys see, low access to care for treatment. And so I've been working on increasing access to treatment for a long time in Oregon, and Oregon's done a good job. They've invested like historic amounts into treatment services, and a lot of people are getting help. The problem is that your everyday citizen, they see people who are addicted in the most acute state, and they see and maybe even feel some of the ancillary consequences of those people's behaviors, but they don't see all the people who are getting sober and changing their life around. You just don't. And it's a lot of people, you know. Probably half the people in my organization, and some people in executive leadership, they were like clients of ours at 4D, you know, got sober and worked for us. So we see it all the time. We see the miracle of recovery. We see people manage to recover. And so we try to get out and tell that story. So people, when they're ready, whether it's a nudge from a judge, you know, a push from your spouse or your family or your parent or whatever it is, or you're just like, I'm done with this life, I want to get sober, they can have that immediate opportunity to do that, because it is important to capitalize on that moment. You know, that's like my little spiel, and then I know we got a lot of time. I'm happy to try to answer any of your guys' questions. Go ahead.
Of the people that you've helped this year, what is your success rate? And then the other question I have is there an agency that deals with dual diagnosis? A lot of people that are in addiction also have mental health issues, but there's not an agency that will take a person that has dual diagnosis.
Yeah, and so when you say success rate,
I'm asking, of the people that you've helped, that you went out and brought in, how many people is that, and what is your success rate?
Well, and I'm just saying, can you operationalize success? Can you tell me what you mean and define what success is? Because if
they recover.
Yeah, so
or at least, like, I'm assuming that some people are on the streets that you're reaching out to. So there's lots of different issues, and there's a lot of money going into recovery, but we cannot seem to get an answer on how much money has gone in and what is the results of that. And that's what I'm interested in. I'm interested in how much money's been invested. So what are we seeing for our investment? I mean, are people actually recovering?
Yeah, so it's like, okay, you want to say people have been sober for a year, or they've gotten their job back, or they went back to homelessness. You know, it's like, so we
How
gotta
do you
have
mark your success?
we mark our success with, you know, sobriety time. So we know a lot of people are getting sober and achieving 1 year. I don't have our most recent last year's numbers, but we know that, you know, 15, 20% of people are reaching that mark. But it could take multiple times of engaging in our services to do it. You know, with our housing, we opened up in November of 2024. Now, what I can say is that, you know, some people do leave our housing. They voluntarily leave, get kicked out for non-compliance, but only less than 10% are leaving our housing going back to homelessness. So if someone does leave, we're making sure we do a good job of getting them to additional services or different housing. About 30% of people are increasing their employment, maybe 40%. About the same with housing. People that don't have housing, or they're improving their housing situation. And then what we have seen is a dip in the amount of people improving their education. So, you know, we define success as, you know, sobriety and then social determinants of health, which are like, did you get housing? Did you get employment while you're with us? Did you improve your employment? Did you improve your housing situation? You know, and then we have sort of feedback loops that give us sort of more qualitative data into how we're doing as an agency supporting them. So as far as like, did 75% of everybody who went through our program recover? We don't like, recover is like, are they still sober? What, like, I have to define what that is. And then we don't track people over like 5 years, you know, that it would take a lot of work, and we don't get reimbursed and funded in a way for us to do that. We kind of operate on the margins.
I'm just curious, I mean, I'm sorry to ask
No,
that
yeah,
question.
keep digging in.
Like, how many people entered your program this year?
So we served about 2,000. That includes people who were like that we engaged through outreach. We know that we get about 1 to 2 people a week through our outreach efforts that enter treatment. And then we know we have about 1,200 other people who engage in our services. Now, because our programs are designed to do different things, defining success for each of those would be different. So like on the recovery center side, people are getting to us, they might already have a job, right? But we're still seeing that about 30% of people there are improving their employment, is what they're saying. I've improved my employment. About 40% of people improve their housing. Now that improvement could be, I was living in a transitional situation and moved back in with my parents. Now on the treatment side, we've only been operating a year, and so we haven't had enough clients to say our sample size is big enough that we can say what the successes are in treatment, because it's new. But we know that, like I said before, about 34% are improving those key metrics, and then about 10-20% of people are reaching a year sober while they're in our program. Other questions? Oh wait, you had a second one.
About dual diagnosis.
Oh, we do dual diagnosis. We do co-occurring. Now, where it gets complicated, everybody says you have to have dual diagnosis, but where it gets complicated is that you have people who are primarily addicted to drugs, and they have some mild co-occurring mental health disorders. Okay, those people can kind of be served together with people who don't have the co-occurring mental health. But then when you get to people who have acute psychiatric issues, they need to be treated in a specialty facility only for that, and you have to be licensed specialty facility just for that. So like a lot of people do dual diagnosis, and the state has incentivized that over the last 3, 4, 5 years, and they've done that through increasing the reimbursement rates. So like because we're dual diagnosis, we get a little bit extra money for doing it. So we do it, but not acute psychiatric care. Okay, other questions? Go ahead.
So you've got a kind of a 3-step
Yeah.
process, which makes a lot of sense to me. How many people are getting taxpayer dollars that don't have that kind of process or programs? Because to me, it seems like anything other than what you're doing is a waste of taxpayer dollars.
Yeah, so I cannot tell you how many people do or don't get the exact program that we have. I will say we are unique because we have that long-term recovery support. I was talking about the drop-in center, but to say that other people who attend programs that aren't designed like ours aren't getting the same sort of benefit would be a mischaracterization, because a lot of people do go to treatment, and during the treatment process, they are connected with outside support, whether that's 12-step groups or church or whatever, they work with them, so they have some landing spot that may not be them, that might not be the agency providing the treatment. And then also treatment, they're getting referrals from somewhere. So they're working with somebody who's referring them, whether that's the criminal justice system or something like that. So
In the ideal world, what would be, how do we help these people, A, and B, make Portland safe and livable again?
oh, jeez, man. I think, to help these people, there's a few things that we can do. One, we can put funding into preventing people from using drugs, kids. We don't spend much money on that.
What would that look like?
It's with kids, it's teaching parents skills to develop resilience when you're younger. It's educating kids about the risks of using drugs, which has been shown to work better than sort of like DARE, like scaring kids. Research shows that scaring people into not doing something can work in the short term, like cops do it with DUIs, for example. They're not always doing random checks, but they'll do them around high drinking times, same thing with seatbelts. It's you more want to educate people on it. So educating kids, building resilience in them.
So in the schools?
In the schools, yeah. I mean, schools would be the ideal place to do it, but there isn't.
Are they doing that now?
Some of the schools have some programs. I can tell you, I don't want to say which schools do and don't, because I'm not an expert, but I can say that overall the state does not invest a large amount of money into preventing it. It's kind of difficult to track as well, because you're not saying, well, how many people have recovered? They were addicted and now they're not, right? They're no longer using or whatever. You're saying our investment year over year is preventing who from getting addicted, And so it just hasn't been funded well. I've been working on it with my friend Pam Pierce to increase the amount of investment into prevention. We passed a bill a couple of sessions ago that defined what prevention was, and we got to create a process and all this stuff they have to do with the states. A lot of process, that goes into it, but we're analyzing where the state spends its money right now on all substance use services, and we have a strategic plan through the Alcohol and Drug Policy Commission. I was the chair of it for 8 years, and my chairmanship just ended, but we have a plan, analyze how the state spends its money, make recommendations to state agencies on where they should spend money, and one of them is prevention. And then you gotta educate the general public about, is what I personally think, educate the general public that to be addicted is normal. It's a normal thing that happens, and people who are addicted aren't necessarily bad people, and that recovery is possible. Versus, for this is just me, versus saying that, drug use and alcohol use is a normal thing. It's just totally normal. And any adverse consequence that happens because of your drug use is fine. I think that's where the state's messed up a little bit over the years with Measure 110, for example, trying to sort of normalize it. I get where the people who wanted to push it are coming from, that locking everybody up isn't what we should do, and putting people in prison for crack pipes, like, I get where they're coming from. I personally opposed it. I was very vocal about my opposition. I thought it was a bad idea. Of course I agreed with the funding, because we need more funding for people to get services, but I thought it was a poorly designed measure that was ultimately going to fail, and was going to get recriminalized, and it was going to sort of hurt. Me personally, I thought it was going to hurt the recovery movement. Like, we'd see a swing back to the other side where it's like, no, now it's got to all be cops, in courts. And I'm not saying that they don't play a role in it; they absolutely do. And so, how do we fix our city? Well, you gotta provide people that are in despair. They gotta have hope and motivation. And sometimes that might be the cops, but sometimes it might be your primary care physician. How many professionals in healthcare are identifying people with addiction and then trying to help them get services? How many professionals in healthcare understand what addiction is? In my experience, it's the cops know more. I've worked with them. They know because they deal with it every day. And so it's getting, public safety, healthcare, treatment providers working together, giving people hope that they can change, and motivating them, and sort of holding them accountable to that change. And when I say holding them accountable, I don't mean in a punitive way. I mean in like a loving way, how you would, hold your kids accountable or something like that. It's like a loving way to motivate them.
Question over here.
Oh, right here.
So, all the needles that you guys are contributing, aren't you guys saying it's okay, to do this drug?
And so when you say me,
Oh,
are you saying that I'm distributing needles?
Well, when you go downtown Portland, they got these clean needle places that you can go get clean needles and stuff. And why is it necessary?
Yeah, so the needle exchange, that's it's a public health paradigm, and so it looks at population health. And there's evidence to show that it does some things. One, it reduces the transmission of communicable disease and stuff like that. Where I see people don't fully agree with it is like, I used the needle exchange before when I was addicted to drugs. If I go in to exchange needles, there should be a mechanism for them to engage me and try to get me into recovery.
Exactly.
Now, I'm not saying that they don't do that. So don't take what I'm saying and say that they don't. But I understand what the concern is with like having these things near schools and seeing needles on the ground. It's like, okay, well, somebody should be cleaning them up. Now, where, with the pipes and tin foils and all that other stuff, I see where people are like, that's a lot. And so I think that's where we've got to a place where we said, okay, this is normal, right? This is normal for a person to be in this state, and this is a healthy way for you to live, and it's not. It's absolutely not. You know what I mean? And so I think it's like you can have a public health approach, and there is some benefit to it, but it shouldn't be the treatment that people get. It shouldn't be looked at like this is the treatment, this is the care that people get, this is what we need to do to solve the problem, and we don't give out those needles anymore. At one time we did, because I was like, well, if everybody's gonna do it, then if we do it, we can engage people and get them into recovery. But we like piloted and then discontinued it because some of my staff did. It was like triggering to them to go out and do it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm curious. No, I'm speaking just of the people living in tents on the streets.
Okay.
What percentage of those your best guess, are drug addicts? And what percent have other impairments, probably mental health? Yeah,
so the reports that I've read over the years from point in time counts and other studies, it's 50, 60, 70% who have one or the other. Some people are living outside and they want to.
Exactly.
They do, you know what I mean? some people are living outside because they got addicted to drugs and they lost everything. Now, there are some people who lost everything, they got on hard times, ended up on the street, and then started using drugs. You know, so of the people who have an issue, you know, the thing that I've been advocating for the county, and Sharon will tell you, this is true, is that the homeless service department, you know, their main objective is to house people, right? And that's fine, but the problem is that where all the money has went into, in Multnomah County, the vast majority of money that's went into housing is into like permanent supportive housing, where there's not like a requirement for people to participate in services, so there isn't a recovery first paradigm. There's like, okay, these people have a problem, you know, addiction, mental health, you know, let's get them into recovery first, and then get them in housing that has services attached to it that they got to participate in for the housing. You know, now there's some people, and I have, my eldest daughter's 17, she's autistic and developmentally delayed. She's never going to be self-sufficient. You know, and there are people on the street who are never going to be self-sufficient. You know, and they might have spurts of it, you know, but they're always going to need something subsidized fully to help them. You know, so those people need to get a specific track of funding. And then you got the people who are like doing crime and drug addicts and stuff, they need a specific track, you know, of services. And then you got people who are just like down on their luck, and they need a specific track. But the county and the state have just put most of their money into, you know, permanent supportive housing. And I've advocated for more money into like sober rehabilitative services for a long time. And I'm still advocating for it because the individuals like me who run the sober housing, we don't have any dedicated funds for what we do. We have to like piece it together. And it's very difficult. And then we run in, when we do try to open stuff, we run into neighborhood associations who are like pissed at us because they think that like we're gonna bring the homelessness into their neighborhoods, and it's like it's already there. You know, but we're like most of the actors, we're really good stewards of our housing. We have rules and requirements. And if people aren't doing that, they're causing problems. Then they won't stay there. So we're not like moving Section 8 in. But that's something that those are things we run up against trying to run sober living.
So there's this big argument, apparently, between housing first and sobriety first.
Yeah.
And we've been doing housing first for decades.
Yeah.
And it appears to not work. And my simplistic take on this is housing first gives them a nice, comfortable place to do drugs until they die of an overdose.
Yeah, so that is a great debate, and I met with one of the deputy directors of HUD. He came down here. HUD's the Federal Housing Bureau. He came down here and did a meeting with several select providers. I was one of the people who went, and you know, he gave a breakdown of why we have so much housing first money. And it was really a federal policy that got enacted, I think, in 2013. So like HUD funds before 2013, it was broken up into 3 buckets. About 30% of funding went into each bucket. One was sort of emergency services. You think of like shelters. The other was transitional recovery housing. That's stuff that I do that I'm trying to get money for. And the other was housing first. And it was fit to, you know, create a track for people. And then, you know, people went into housing first were, you know, a lot of individuals with, you know, mental health issues, elderly and stuff like that, who were probably never going to be fully self-sufficient. And people addicted to drugs like me, they were going to the transitional recovery housing. You know, but it was that federal policy that sort of changed everything. And housing first became the silver bullet. And then you'll hear counter arguments here that like, we don't really do housing first model here because there's no connected services to it, it's just housing. But the idea has been, if you just get people off the streets and put them into housing, they're gonna magically change their lives. No. Now that is true for some people. There are some people on the streets who are just down economically, you know? and those people probably just get a leg up or get some rental assistance or something like that, you know what I mean, and be okay. But a universal approach to every single person, it's not going to work, and we see some real consequences to it with the housing first providers and also in the affordable housing providers. We have vacant units, people won't move in, you know. We have buildings that are becoming uninsurable, property damage, etc. So that's something I've been trying to change for like 10 years. You know what I mean? And so I hope to see that change here in the future.
So is anyone in city council working with anyone, or the county,
You know,
Multnomah County,
there are people who understand what we were trying to do. The Portland City Council, you know, they get blamed with all the problems in the city, and they have
Right.
the least amount of tools to fix them, you know,
Yeah.
besides like roads and parks, and so, you know, it's like they don't have all the tools, and so they're relying on the county
Right.
to invest funds. I am hopeful in the future that the consequences of housing first only is going to change the paradigm. But, you know, I just speak freely, you know, but the tension with the federal government, I think, is going to cause maybe some problems here because of the big fight that everybody's in, where, you know, the federal government wants to put more money into transitional recovery housing,
Right.
but people here are still
One housing first.
right, and it's not, and, you know, and there's a lot, but the sober living community, transitional recovery housing community, hey Sharon, we've been, you know, banding together and advocating for more sober living, more rehabilitative services, and we have made some headway. The county has, Multnomah County has invested funds. There's the Metro tax that's coming up. I've been working with the Portland Business Alliance on that, so that we can, you know, if we're going to refund it, how is it going to be used? Is it going to be used the same way? Is it going to be used different? I advocated for the Metro money to get broken up, some of that money to get put into rehabilitative services, but apparently I didn't do a very good job. You know, but
Have you seen anyone from the Safe Rest Village? Because they shut down our Safe Rest Village over here on Greenway. Has anyone from any of the Safe Rest Villages who've been back up on the street, have they?
You know, I can't speak to those programs. I'm not familiar with them.
Well, I just wondered if the people that were in those have come to you and said, you know, I came from the Safe Rest Village over here or there, and I would like to get some help. Have you seen any? Because
I would say that we probably have people from Safe
okay,
Rest
because I'm
Village,
just
yeah.
saying, when they started, they were supposed to have the rehab, but it wasn't mandatory. Nothing was mandatory, so they were giving these little pods,
I know.
but nothing was mandatory. It's like, why are we wasting our money when there's no requirement to do anything?
I think what happened is what I would call sort of toxic empathy. You know, that's what I would call it.
Yeah.
No, it is like toxic empathy,
Uh-huh.
where we're not allowed to make people feel uncomfortable. And Oregon has a problem with this.
Yes, they
Sure do.
It's too fucking neighborly here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, because you go to the East Coast, I've been all over the place, right? You go to the East Coast, people are like direct.
Yes.
Not to say they don't have problems like us, because major cities have problems,
Yes.
but you know, so I think it's like this toxic empathy,
Yeah.
where it's like, okay, this person's vulnerable,
Uh-huh.
you know, they're in a disposition, it's society's fault, and so society needs to pay for them to live, you know, and some of that, and some of it I agree with. It's like we're a community, and you know, I'm happy to give my tax dollars for social services for people who need help. I was a recipient of those. You know, I grew up poor, I had a hard life, you know, I know other people who grew up wealthy and they end up in the same shoes as me, and we all use public assistance. But me personally, there's got to be some motivation and expectation
Yeah.
that comes along with that, that's not 100% punitive all the time, right? So you can't just say lock them up, throw away the key, because one, that hasn't worked, and two, jails and prisons and the court system is really expensive as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so you got to pay somewhere, right? And, the majority of people who are in jail and prisons, they, have some sort of addiction or something, which tells me that they have the ability to recover. Very, it's not like all of them are psychopathic murderers, it's a smaller percentage. So, for me, it says, how do you pull the levers in our community with the entities that are responsible for taking care of our citizens in a way that makes sense? And it's easy for me to say that. I'm not a politician. I don't have to deal with other politicians. I don't have to deal with, city government or state government. Like it's complicated, But if it was me, I would have those systems working together, like you're saying, the Safe Rest Villages. And I'm not saying that they don't, because I do know that people who go to Safe Rest Villages, they do get referred to treatment. I don't know that there's
no requirement.
expectation yet.
Yeah.
Or there's expectation that the funded entities are working together.
I think once Wilson came into mayor, I think he started putting out expectations, but before that, there really was none.
No, it was okay. Our success metric is how many people can we house.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And people, I talk to people because I've been doing it for 10 years, trying to get more rehabilitative services, and they believe in their mind that housing is health.
Mm-hmm.
Which I get it from like a basic needs perspective.
Right.
Like if you're not housed, like things are hard.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well,
But
I don't mind the housing. It's no requirements to get
I
the
know,
housing.
I've been preaching it.
So, time.
Oh, time. Okay, well, thank you guys. Sorry I couldn't
Well,
answer
thank
all
you.
your questions.
Thank you.
How you doing?
What's that?
Good. And I got the 6-week baby at home.
Oh.
So my wife's got the other kids. I gotta get home and help.
We have a question. Where
Oh.
does 4D come
What does
from?
4D mean?
Oh, okay. So in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous,
Uh-huh.
it talks about being rocketed into the 4th dimension, and it was that experience was generated by one alcoholic helping another.
Okay.
And so that's where 4D comes from, shortened from 4th dimension. At first it was a 4th dimension sober club, but then we were more than a club, and then we were a center, so we're the 4th dimension recovery center, and then we had all this other stuff going on. So we'll just call it 4D recovery.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
How do people get into your program?
Yeah, so you can go to our website. There's a really easy way. You can either call, email us, or just fill out a referral form. Or if you know somebody who needs help, she has my personal number. I wrote it down on a piece of paper. You could call me anytime if you know somebody who's being helped, and we'll get them the help we need if we can.
So, I mean, this is like, say you driving past Winco and you got somebody laying on the, so who do you call? Do you call 311, 911?
That is a question for a former Multnomah County Commissioner.
Only there was a number.
The other thing is, it's like with all the housing money that goes out, we have these street outreach teams. I think they need to put success metrics on how many people are getting into behavioral health services as a result of that, which I've tried to do. Say, okay, well, if 70% of people have addiction or mental health, then our housing system should be addressing that with all the money we're putting in. So why don't we just track how many people are getting referred? Okay. You can call the cops. I don't know if they'll show up.
Yeah. You do welfare checks. Yeah, they do.
All right, later.
Thank
Sharon.
you. Thank you.
We're very fortunate now to have Sharon Meieran, who's running for Multnomah County Chair. Welcome.
Thanks. Thank you. It is so good to be here. It's great to be back, seeing this group.
I know. It's been a while.
It's been a while. So Sharon Meieran, and really appreciate you pronouncing the name right. Like, it's okay if people don't, because it's hard. It's a lot of vowels, but you got it. And so I have been here before as Multnomah County Commissioner, and I represented District 1, which is far away, but
Downtown.
But care about actually the entire county, and so I don't even know where to start. Just hearing a little bit about what what Tony was saying brought up so many issues for me. So I'm going to try to just be very zen about this. And I'm like, oh my God, they're not paying for the thing. They're not tying it to any results. So like,
Yeah.
it's okay. It's all good. But he was identifying some of those issues spot on in terms of like, you know, I immediately want to dive into the deflection center, but I'm gonna hold off. And actually, I don't know what is most helpful. I am running for Multnomah County Chair, and the reason being because Multnomah County is failing in really all of the major social services standards that matter around health, housing, human services, homelessness. So our county, I usually do a whole introduction and like house parties and things I do, but I think most of you know a bit about me. I'm diving in. So I will say, Sharon Meieran, I'm an ER doctor. I do actually go out and I do some street medicine services. So I actually see people living unsheltered outside, and I provide medical care and try to do connections to stuff, but there's nothing to connect to most of the time. But I'm running for chair because I worked in the county for 8 years, and I saw how dysfunctional it was, and I saw the reasons why all of these things that seem like they should make sense are not coming together to just create systems that function for people, for our communities and neighborhoods, for our businesses, and it's not as hard as they're making it. So, I, on the board, I think a lot of you know more here than most people. City does a lot of like, bricks and mortar stuff. Police does, you know, theoretically should fill our potholes, whether or not they do, but trash pickup, those kinds of things. County is all health, social services, human services, it is homeless services, domestic violence, aging and disability, all of these different things that are about people and supporting them and getting what they need so they can get from a point A to point B or C or D or E. And if we don't have a functioning foundation of social services, none of the other stuff can work. We cannot have thriving businesses if people are sleeping in doorways, pooping in doorways. We cannot have thriving neighborhoods if people are not safe walking around in their neighborhoods. Kids cannot do well and succeed in school if they are sleeping in a car or not getting food. And so all of this stuff is so important to our economy, to our neighbor, to everything, to our communities. And I think I've said that in the past, the county is what I think of as the string that should be tying all of this together. It's all at the county. Most people haven't even heard of the county, but that's where all of this crucial stuff is. And the county is the reason instead that it's falling apart. And so getting back to what I said earlier, which is that we are failing in all these things, I'm not just making that up. It's not just what I see walking down the street or outside my front door. It actually, Oregon is 51st in the country for prevalence of mental illness. And I say 51st out of all the states because they actually count DC as well. So it is not just, you know, I'm joking, it's 51st. It literally is the last in the country in terms of the mental illness. And it's driven by Multnomah County, the largest county in the state, which is responsible for mental health care and creating a system that treats people with mental illness. The county has one of the worst, if not the highest per capita unsheltered homeless population in the country. And it has one of the worst, if not the worst, worsening rates of homelessness in the country. As other people are sort of improving or at least staying stagnant, Multnomah County is actually getting worse. And it has some of the most money that they're paying we're paying, as taxpayers, per capita to address homelessness, mental, all of these things. So we're paying the highest amount in the country and we're getting the worst services. Like that's this thing that people, you know, lose track of. And so it's not just that there's a problem in there's not enough money. It's not a problem that everyone's facing addiction and homelessness, because, you know, everyone is facing these issues. There's something unique about how badly we're doing in it, given the amount of money that we have compared to everywhere else in the country. And so the question is, what's the deal with that? Why is that happening?
Oregon seems to be at the bottom of the list of good things.
Yes.
And at the top of the list of bad things on everything.
Yes.
And the voters and the people of Oregon seem to have come to expect that or accept it as the standard.
Accepted as that's normal. And and a lot of it is in fact driven by Multnomah County. I've been on the Association of Oregon Counties. Like I was a co-chair of the Health and Human Services. I worked with a lot of the counties across Oregon, and they're doing things, some of them are doing things really well in all of these other counties, and it's always Multnomah County that's coming up short. And so you ask, okay, so why is it? Is it people that they don't care? It's like, no, there are lots of people who really care a lot in our county. That's everyone in this room, like everyone cares. So is it the money? They tell us they don't have enough money. No, it is not the money. Question? You can interrupt me anytime. I'm going to have this a conversation.
It's policy. I was
Yes.
a security guard down at the train station for 2 years. And what I got to see, there's about 12 different types of homeless people. And various reasons that they're homeless. One, somebody wants to be there. One, somebody's hiding from the law, or ex-wife, or whatever. Others are mentally disabled. Others are handicapped. Others have physical disabilities. And it's dangerous down there for those people because they're preyed on by criminals, the police. Oh, the police, they're supposed to help us. Oh, I forgot that, sorry. Yeah, they don't help you. I was a security guard at the train station. The basketball team wanted to have a fight. We called the police. They didn't show. Anyway, so I don't have a lot of respect for our officers. And it's really not the officers, it's policy. That's what I want to point out.
Yep.
Multnomah's problem with homeless, schools, and other things have lack of standards, lack of policies that are really consistent that's going to help somebody. They have bullshit ideas that don't work. Me and my partner here, Tammy, I'm running for office for 46th District. Anyway, we went out, and we've been going out for a month now, out there on the street. Hi, I'm running, and I have my little thing about schools and other stuff. And some people are really adamant about, well, yeah, we got to get more money for the school. No, how about teach something to the student? How about do something that's policy-wise? When I was in school here at Woodmere Elementary School, let me see, that was, that was
Just a few years ago.
1961. When I was there, I was a dumb shit. But they had a group called Special Accelerating Class. I can't forget what it's called. But anyway, these were students that excelled. They had understanding. They knew something. They had a special class for them. I wanted to get in, but I couldn't because I couldn't read, because they didn't teach proper reading. With me, it was memorization of words, which is great. I can memorize a lot right now, but I still have a little trouble with this because I didn't learn phonics. But the point I'm making is that's policy. That's procedures. That's teaching to the student what they need. The same with the homeless. The same with, like, how about, oh yeah, we got, what's that called, marijuana? Oh yeah, it's like, it's for my medical reason, right? No, it's for bullshit. It's for anyone who wants to smoke marijuana anytime, anywhere. They changed the laws. They used kind of criminal thing. Now there's no standard.
Yeah.
So my whole point of speaking out, hon, is that I get very frustrated with the way our city does stuff because they have no standard. They have no understanding of how to help anybody else. I was in the Navy, and there's a real simple thing in the Navy. If you don't follow the rules, you're going to die. No, it's really simple. You have an aircraft worth billions. You have engines that are putting out, I don't know, a few thousand powers of thrust. If you don't go where you're supposed to go, you're going to die. So the simple principle in the military is simply say, pay attention. These are the manuals. This is the standard. If you do not stand in the proper spot on the aircraft carrier, you will be in the sea and you will die. And in a sense, we need to bring that kind of attitude to the schools. You need to learn to read so you can do something in your life. Get off the drug attitude. Anyway.
Yeah, no, I think, well, you took some of the wind out of my sails because I was going to get there. I was saying, so I'm saying it is not people, it is not the money. The county has so much money. It is, when I started at the county, the interesting thing, and I'm going to get to your point, that it is exactly about the policies, but it's more than the policies too. It is, when I got to the county, this was like 10 years ago, the budget for homeless services was around 50 million, okay? That was with the city and the state putting in their money. And everyone said, oh, we can't solve homelessness. Homelessness, people forget, it was a crisis then, 10 years ago. Right. And it was, but if only we had enough money, we know what to do with it, and we could solve the problem. So, fast forward, when I left the county, the supportive housing services tax supposed to raise $2 billion over 10 years. It's going to raise more than that. But when I left the county, the budget was $400 million a year, 8 times more. And homelessness was at least, but probably more than 3 times worse. So they had all the money in the world and things got way worse. It is not about the money. It is how you're using the money. And and it is looking at what places, businesses, what organizations, even what households do. We start with the end in mind. Say, okay, what do we want to achieve? What do we want to do with our dinner budget? What do we want to do in terms of getting homeless, outcomes about things? And then you say, how much money do we have? Then you say, okay, what is the roadmap to get there? And then how do we assess progress along the way and be accountable for it? County doesn't do any of those things, which I observed being there for 8 years. Yes, sir.
Question I have, the state of Oregon is hurting.
Yeah.
Because of the drugs and the homeless. Well, why in the hell do Oregon accept all of these out-of-state people? Because Oregon is come to Oregon because we'll give you this and we'll give you that. Bullshit. If it's Oregon people, I'm 100%. Somebody from Florida or Oklahoma, get the hell out of here.
Well, I think that's some of, and actually Mayor Wilson has a program that he's been doing that actually is connecting people back to where they have come from. If they have, he's finding their families, finding their connections, and he's helping get them back. So, but what part of what you're talking about is about, okay, one of the problems here are the county isn't organized to do anything effectively. The county has 11 departments that are totally disconnected. They're like islands that don't talk to each other. Homeless services alone, I said there's 400 million there. 5 or more different departments touch on homeless services. Each one has its own budget, its own contracts, its own goals, not real goals, its own, and they don't even have meetings that they share. It's completely disorganized with all of that money. And what they do is year after year, the reason we don't see change is the way they budget, is they take last year's budget, they roll it right over, they kind of copy everything and then say, oh, how much money are we going to get? Oh, it's so awful, we're getting less money. We're just going to cut all the, what we're going to do is cut all these shelter beds. It's arbitrary. They don't have a goal they set. So they're disorganized and not connected, so there's no system, which is, I can't remember who was saying earlier, like, you don't start here, and even Tony was saying, People don't start here and then you get them through to the next thing, get them shelter, and what's shelter for? To get them into treatment or housing, whatever, you don't get them into that. Then you don't get them into the next thing. So no one's going from here into housing and staying there. They're going through this revolving door because there's nothing that's stopping that. Each organization out, and there's hundreds of them, these nonprofits, have their own standards, like, oh, I just have to get this many people referred somewhere. And you have hundreds of organizations doing that, not connecting. So there's organization, but I'm gonna get through the 4 things, and I think that you had a question and then and come back to you. Organization, they do not measure what matters. So deflection center is really the 2 words I need to say. So what we see is 2 years, the deflection center has been operational. The concept is a good one, okay? The idea of saying people who are living on the street, who are using drugs, who are addicted to drugs, and they're using, let's get them into treatment on a different path and into stability instead of jail. Okay, great idea. The problem is how the county's implemented it. 2 years, $25 million put into this. They cannot point to a single person, not one, that has actually gotten treatment and through treatment as a result of the deflection center. You talk about wasting money, where are we gonna find this money? It's like, oh, there's $25 million that could have done so much good for so many, and instead it's nothing. And what do they measure? They measure, you know, to make themselves look good. It's like, how many referrals do we, you know, do from deflection? Not whether people follow up, not whether they're even referred to treatment. It's like referral to food bank, referral to shelter. That's not what deflection is. Deflection is about treatment, so we should be counting treatment. They count how many meetings they have, literally. Like we have 24 meetings about deflection. Not one person that we can show that we got what they need and they're on a better path. So they don't measure what matters, they're not organized, and they don't tie spending to results. So they don't actually, like I said, with the budget, it just rolls over. The hundreds of nonprofits that get paid, they're not tying it to saying, oh, we got them into treatment. This person is now off drugs and in recovery and staying in recovery. When they get people, their goal is to place people in housing. So they say, oh, we're gonna pay, and look, all these people, thousands of people are placed in housing. You don't know what happens the day after, the week after, the year after. You don't know what happens to the apartments these people are put into. And so they're not measuring what matters. Placement doesn't mean anything if you're not actually keeping people in the housing, and they are not. But
it's all image and no substance.
It is all image and no substance. And that is, you know, because you think, what is it? What's the motivation here? And it is to sound good. Instead of do good is the bottom line.
So they don't get shut off. So they just have to get more money.
And it's about justifying the money that they're spending. They look at spending money as an outcome. It's like, no, that's not an outcome. And then they're not accountable for the results. Right. So they, you know, we need to account for every dollar spent. So I'm just going to finish this, and then I'm going to just turn it over to questions because I think that's going to be the better. I spent the last year writing a plan, working with the experts, with neighbors, with people, with all of the things I've learned over the years, working with so many people who know the county inside and out, to say, okay, how are we going to create these things at the county? And how are we going to bring that to the county and change the culture of spending for spending's sake, of sounding good instead of doing good? How can we change that? The beauty is we actually can. It's not as hard as they're making it. Doing the right things for people is not as expensive as they're making it. Right. There is a plan online. We will hand out the cards that have a little plan. But it's a big plan, and it's not just my plan. It's worked on with the people who actually know, who don't happen to be the people at the county. And so we can do so much more for so much less money, for people, for neighbors, for communities. And it's not as hard as they're making it. And we can do it together.
There's a persistent urban legend about Portland and the metro area now.
Yes.
about the tons of money that the city and other governmental agencies donate to these, or fund these not-for-profits, nonprofits, being funneled back in the form of campaign contributions.
Yeah.
Oh, I would not be so. I'm not taking organizational endorsements or contributions for them because, for these very reasons, because there is some, it's not a blanket statement, but I've been doing this now long enough to know that some of these games are rigged, and you just, why even, we're gonna see it with some of the candidates and the chairs, right? You know, it's, so not gonna ask those questions, and I'm not gonna take that money. And so it is, or seek those endorsements, because they come with strings attached. They do. And you can't pretend like they don't. Well, you can pretend, but many of them you can't. And so what is that? I wanted to finish this. If I'm chair, we will not count the number of meetings to say this is success. We will not count how much money we spend. We will tie spending to results. We will achieve goals of actually reducing homelessness and being able to prove it. We can restore some faith and trust, I hope, because I don't have it right now, but that our government can work and do the job that it says it is going to do. And I will bring in the people with me, the cavalry who can come in and set up a county that works. And so that's what Anyway, now all of your questions, I will take as many as you want to ask. And I think you, blue shirt.
I believe I was first, but
okay,
she go ahead and
go
take
ahead.
her.
She was for a long time ago, but go for it.
Anyway, go ahead and take her.
No.
I'll be a gentleman.
You do.
No, don't.
Go ahead.
Yep.
Go ahead, Aaron.
Go ahead, Aaron.
You do it.
Anyway, I don't know about what you said about Portland being worse. Take a trip down to Oakland. You can drive for miles and miles and see nothing but homeless.
Yeah.
So I don't see where Portland's worse than there.
So actually,
It's not.
I was just in
Go down to LA and look at that.
So LA, I'm saying worse.
Oakland, there's 10 times worse than it is here.
Some of it is, okay, it's per capita rates, and
I don't see where Portland is. They're not near as bad as there.
There are some areas.
My daughter lives down there, so I know what's going on there.
Yeah, and so there are a couple of areas that said
I don't know where they get their
worst or
statistics
among the worst
on the county, because what I can see, it's more, Portland's bad, right? But what I can see with my own eyes, it's much worse down there.
And I think part of the issue is different ways of measuring things, but it is the standards that they use are things that are pretty inaccurate, but they're done across the country in the same way, this point in time count thing, and then they take information from other sources. So it is, and there are a couple of places that are as bad or worse. You know, I'm saying one of the worst.
Yeah, I don't know where they get their counting at, that's what I'm getting at.
It's a HUD system that is all counties use across the country, so they report it in the same way and they do the same process, but some people do it better, some people do it worse, some people don't count the right things. And doing street medicine, I've gone out to some places that are as bad as any I've seen, and I lived in Berkeley and Oakland, and LA is uniquely bad. LA is its own
Skid Row is bad,
hellhole.
yeah.
But and the person they just hired to lead the county's homeless services department, I'm just gonna say here. So county does all
the guy
homeless
from LA?
services. The guy from LA, the guy who led LA's homeless services, one of the leaders there for 10 years. They just brought to the county to be the new homeless services director.
That's real nice.
There was an interview in the Oregonian with him. I would say actually don't read it if you did. But he did not mention addiction, mental illness, any of these issues, behavioral health, any of these things, not once in the entire interview.
When you're chair, can you fire those people?
Yes, the chair, that's the thing. The chair is the chief personnel. It's only the chair hires people. The board has to approve. And I will say, usually it's a slam dunk. The board just approves.
Right.
It's kind of a rubber stamp, but the chair she brings the people. This one issue and this one guy, it was just a couple of months ago, it was the first time I've ever seen a 3-2 vote on the board, and one candidate for chair, Julie Brim Edwards, voted for him and was the deciding vote. Shannon Singleton, actually, I didn't expect, voted against him, weirdly. But, so, anyway, yeah. But it was, so they brought the person, so we may be like LA soon. But it is really bad, and it's not necessarily in some of the places that we see, because people there's some whack-a-mole here, and some of the outer areas where you go, it is living in horrific conditions. So, but I hear you. So.
Can I ask, who's running against you?
Yes. So there are 2 candidates that are current sitting commissioners. One is Commissioner Julia Brim Edwards, and one is Commissioner Shannon Singleton. Commissioner Singleton actually was the Joint Office of Homeless Services Director at the county for about a little less than a year. And during that time, homelessness, we'll say, markedly worsened, worsening up to that point in history. And deaths on the street also really escalated. So she was at the county as the Homeless Services Director. And so I'll just point that out. And I would also say, I don't think of it in the same way as opponents, but it's ranked choice voting for the first time ever. And everyone was like, ugh. It was at the city, it was kind of a nightmare, at least for me. But the way to think about it at the county is you rank as first priority the person you want to be in the position. The person you want as chair needs to be number 1. I hope it will be me. But you don't rank anyone you do not want to be in the position.
Yeah.
So if there are people you don't want, do not rank them at all. And then your second choice matters, though. That's the one good thing about ranked choice voting. So if there's someone there like, okay, if I don't get my first choice, actually I'm okay with this other person.
Right.
It's kind of what happened in the mayor's race. You had these 2 people, everyone was like, these are the front runners, they're going to win. And Keith Wilson was like, yeah, I just want to be everyone's second choice, just put me second. What happened in that race? So, it's important. Your second choice matters, but rank who you want first. Don't rank who you don't want. And rank a second choice if you. So, hopefully that makes sense. You?
Yeah, I'm afraid to answer the question. I see that Multnomah County and the city don't always work together. There is a lot of, it's not transparent, and I think he was speaking to, like, the police responding to a situation that they have no control over, and people on the street not knowing who to call. And I think the biggest thing for me that it just doesn't make sense is that there isn't a data where people can measure, like between and the city, where people are in need of services, and we don't have that. Yes. We've asked for it over and over, and it's not a hard thing to do.
It's not.
I mean, you're in emergency services. You know what communication is like.
Yes.
We are the top in it. People can learn how to coordinate services, and I just don't understand that. I don't understand why Multnomah County and the city cannot have some sort of data between the 2 of them to work together to get. Police are responding to people that are in mental crisis.
Yes.
And they're getting blamed because they don't have any control over that. And it's just frustrating. And that's come up over and over and over in our meetings. And I think it's a big deal.
The city bureaus don't even work together.
Well, I'm saying they're having a hard time where it's not transparent.
It is
between the 2. They're fighting for their budgets. They're hanging on to that money. They're rolling it over, and they're not talking to one another. It is not transparent, and that's why we have so much money going out and nothing happening. And it's frustrating. I can't get over it. I mean, we are in a beautiful city, and it's a trash hole right now. The
You
worst
are,
I've ever seen it.
it is, okay, you were just speaking to my heart right there, so I'm gonna try to, okay. That was one of the things that I found most frustrating at the county was the fact that and the chair, start with the chair responsibilities. I said what the county does, and the chair has virtually absolute power at the county. The chair is the CEO, writes the $4 billion budget, the one I said rolls over, you know. It is all the chair that does that, and then the commissioners can nibble around the edges. So chair does all the big policies. The chair is the chief administrative officer, the chair is the chief personnel officer. So that's why the chair chooses all of the department directors. So any policy of the county, it is the chair, and the chair fires them, and they all report to the chair. So commissioners don't get to say, oh, you know what, homeless services director, or mental health director, here's what we should do. It is all the chair's decisions, and then you can kind of do stuff around the chair if you either agree or disagree, harder if you disagree. The chair also is the chief contracting officer. So all of the, you know, the ambulance services contract that she held up for 2 years when ambulances weren't responding to emergencies, that she could have just held up in the contract for like a couple of stupid things while people were dying on our streets.
Right.
That the chair could have done something with the stroke of a pen to change that, and she chose not to, which is why the one thing I did as a county that was positive was undid what the chair screwed up. But and it's because I knew ambulance services in the ER and got it to happen. But the chair is the chief, and so all the nonprofits. You know, one of the things right now, nonprofits don't have to submit to audits or the evaluations or whatever.
Why
because,
is that?
Well, we've asked questions
because
tonight
it's in
and
their
they couldn't give it.
contracts, they don't have to do it. The chair could change that again with the
Yeah.
stroke of a pen and say,
Yeah.
oh, actually you do have to
Yeah, they
submit
should
to
be
these
audited.
They
evaluations.
should be audited.
I would do that in like the first week in office. I would notice going out now, you know, that is something straightforward. And another thing I would do, like what I was just calling for so long, and again, the chair has the authority, brought it up in the budget, board doesn't vote for it because they go along with the chair, is an audit of county homeless services dollars, a direct of where they're going, how much they're spending, and the performance around it. And they need to say exactly what they're doing with that stuff. That's, again, something I could order first day as chair, and I actually know who would do it. A third-party, independent place that did it for Los Angeles. Were approved. They wasted billions of dollars. They didn't know where it went. There was potential fraud, and all these nonprofits were getting all this money. We can hire them here, and the chair could do it. So it is a matter of having experts defining what it is where we should be measuring, because right now they're not doing that, and then having that be transparent in, you know, dashboards for the public that are kept up to date, but it's stuff that matters. Like, it's not the stuff that they do post, which is ridiculous. It's not accurate, and it's irrelevant, some of the stuff. Like I said, these placements, we don't care how many people are placed. How many people are permanently in a place that they stayed?
Oh, what I was
Yeah.
gonna say is, we've got somebody into housing over here on 92nd
Yeah.
through Home Forward, and I hope he keeps that housing through Home Forward, because I know they're failing.
That's-
But at any rate,
Yes.
I got a call about 2 years after we got him in there from the county,
Yeah.
asking if I knew where he was and if he was still housed. The guy was shocked that he was still in housing. So I'm saying that was an anomaly. I'm saying that was an anomaly of all the people he called, that it was an anomaly to see that somebody was still in housing after 2 years.
It is. It
Yeah.
actually is.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I put in my plan, just to directly answer your question, because if we don't have the actual data, the real information
Real
about
data.
people, who they are, where they are, what they need, you know, what their barriers are, we don't even have a baseline for understanding what everything is, let alone saying if we've made progress. So I proposed, and in the plan that I've written, easily accessible, I propose a separate sort of data group, like a team, a crack team of experts who know how to do information sharing, data management, know what to be looking for, that is across departments. Again, right now it's all siloed. Each department kind of has its own group that kind of says what it's going to do. No one is putting those pieces together to understand the systems. So this will be a reliable source that everyone can use and get the information so it's in one place. It is working with the city on it, and you have to work with the city on that because it's all of this information is just so scattered and there's no
Well, that's so they don't have to
reliability.
be transparent and they
Because
don't have
no one
show
has
where
to
it's
be-
going,
it is.
because nobody knows.
Right.
So
Exactly, and
do
they
everything
want,
with it,
that's
and they
not,
do.
that's not by mistake, you know?
I'm aware.
It is, yes.
We're aware.
And so it can be done, and it is essential to really everything that the county does. Data isn't separate and apart in this like weird thing we should be scared of. It is the way we know that what we're doing works or isn't working.
Well, we
And-
asked the person that was here previously, you know,
Yeah,
can you give us the stats? And they can't.
No.
They can't at all. There's nothing there.
it is
And yet they're getting
unbelievable.
thousands and thousands and thousands
Yes.
of dollars.
Yes.
So,
It's like with the deflection center thing, like I said, they cannot prove one person actually, and they didn't, because they
They
have,
didn't have
one
to,
person got
because
treated.
if they did have to be accountable for it, they would lose that money.
Right.
It's a whole money
It's-
game.
Yes.
So you're going to piss off an awful lot of nonprofits.
I know.
My perception is that it's all a buy-off for the nonprofits. They're literally shoveling money to these people and get a percentage back in goodies, presumably campaign donations. Now, I've not actually looked at the data, so that's a best guess.
Yeah.
My real question is about the ambulance tip between the chair and, was it AMR, I think?
Yeah.
How many people actually died because we couldn't get ambulance service to them? And I've got a feeling that's a significant number of people and nobody's talking about it.
And that's because we can't get the data about, like, none of that data is out there. And we have, just to talk, another disconnect, I would say, in services with the city and county emergency services.
I bet AMR could get you a good estimate of that. The number of calls they were unable to take, and then statistically look at those calls, what they were for, and the death rates for delays and that kind of stuff. So I bet you could put together a number and shove it right down in our chairman's throat.
I was screaming at the top of my lungs for the 2 years I was the one that brought this forward even as an issue. She didn't have to share it. I found out about it in a totally different, someone randomly asked me who was involved in ambulance services or something, and they said, "Oh, how do you feel about this thing, the staffing model?" I'm like, that makes no sense. That is absolutely absurd. We should totally not do that. And that's a way we can solve our ambulance services crisis. And I went to the chair and said, "Oh, it's absurd," thinking to reasonably take this advice to heart. I'm an ER doctor and I work with ambulances, and so was saying, here's a way you can solve your problem. We can help people. We don't have to, it's a thing. You can have it. Just do it. And she said no. And so, but I tried to get the information, and again, gatekeeper of information, and it goes through all these different systems. So as chair, I can get it and look back on it. Couldn't get it then, but I did see from the city, who had the information about how many ambulances were called and what the wait times were, that there would be 12 ambulances or more that were called for emergencies that weren't able to get there because that was the queue. And so people with heart attacks, people with broken, whatever the thing was, and even the people that didn't die or have a horrible outcome, it's still the idea of calling 911. You're in a medical emergency, you're really scared, you're with your kid or parent or whatever, and you're trying to have someone come help you and not have someone show up for hours and hours, if at all. That alone is horrific. So there's so much more to that question and what happened during that time. But it was unconscionable.
Yeah,
That was a moral
I think it would be
transgression.
a big election issue if you could shove that down her throat. And the other thing is, I got a hunch, pure guess,
Yeah.
in the background is a union someplace that she's butt kissing.
There's,
They all are.
Well, yeah,
it was
that's a given.
there was a contract issue.
How many people on the Multnomah County Board are up for re-election this year?
Only the chair and District 2, which is Shannon Singleton, who is running for chair. So what that means, that's actually a great question, because there are 4 commissioners and 1 chair. Chair is, the whole county. And so Shannon is the only one that would have to give up her seat to run for chair. She has to choose whether she's going to run for re-election or run for chair. So by choosing to run for chair, she can't run for her district. So she gives up that seat. Julia keeps her seat regardless. So Julia will be on the board whether or not she wins the chair's race. So it's everyone else will be on the board still. So yeah.
And
Wish you luck.
Huh?
Wish you luck.
Thank you, and I know I'm seeing
I
the
know.
time, and I'm happy to stick around for people if you want to talk more, but
Is it staffing or burnout? I mean, do they have enough people, social workers that go out and work? Is it, and because the right hand is not talking to the left hand,
Yeah.
obviously.
I
you
mean,
know?
there's
But is there anybody,
there's so much so the thing is, the people on the front line that are kind of doing this work,
and they get burned out?
the burnout, they are the heroes. Like, they're doing this out of the goodness of their souls and trying to do right and work around the dysfunction of these systems. And even, I would say, even the nonprofits, they're screwed by the county because they are given these contracts that don't do a big picture thing. They're like, here's a stupid contract to do stupid things that you can prove you do your stupid things and we'll pay you a bunch of money. And it's like, that's not the organization's fault, that's the county's. Like, the organization's like, okay, we're doing the things you're telling us to. It's just no one at the county's putting it together. And by no one, I mean the leader of the county is not directing what needs to happen. So, but there's so much burnout because these are really hard jobs. They're not getting paid anything. And it's not that we don't have enough money, it's how we're spending the money. So we could be spending it to get better results, to treat workers, but to do all of the things and still spend less than we're spending now. Is that,
Do either of your opponents have the same concept that you do, that the county's broken and we need to start,
Thanks, I'll give you the, no, thank you for that question. That's why I ended up running for chair. Like, I don't like running for office. I don't like the political system right now. It's really broken. You probably, and it is,
Let's turn it red.
and let's just make it function to do its job. And
what's Julia's plan and Shannon's plan?
The reason I ran was because neither of them have put out a plan. Like, I put mine out that I worked on for a year with experts and with all this stuff together, because I can't not do the thing. It's in my head and I really care. And I know we can do so much better. So I wrote a plan. I'm like, I could put this out there. Maybe someone will pick up on it. Maybe the county will take it. Crickets, nothing. So they both announced, I put out a plan. They both announced no plan, not even an outline of a plan. And then 8 months later, they still don't have a plan. Like that, and after the budget is when I was like, okay, we need someone who can say exactly what's going to happen when they get into office, has the team that's going to come in to help transition the system, can show that there will be change starting on day one from when I walk in the door of the county, and I can prove it, and I have a plan of what is going to happen over time. And I was hoping to at least be able to have a debate about the things that can change the county in this race for chair, so it's not
Will
just
there be a
another
debate?
political. I hope that it's a real debate. I would love that. Then the
Tell us
community
Angela to do
wins,
it.
Yeah.
and that's what it's about.
We can
It-
find
like-
somebody to do that.
Angela Todd.
Yes,
Todd.
host a real debate.
Yeah.
I would love that.
Angela Todd.
Angela Todd can do it.
Yeah.
But so with Julia, there'll be there'll be status quo, and with Shannon, it'll probably
She
be,
does debates for politics.
but nothing will change.
Nothing will
Or-
change.
Yeah.
Yes. In my view, which is why I'm running and why I'm doing this thing.
I don't think anybody's gonna take a magic wand and fix everything.
Nope.
It's just not
No,
gonna happen.
not
that
at
way.
all.
No.
That's why it's a year's process. But you can't do change. No one, no, and anyone who says that they will is completely lying.
They could probably
Or
make it worse.
says that there's, but that's true. But you can look over the work and say, well, at least, I would say if you want change, you there's only one choice in the race, and it's me, because I have a plan. I'll show it to you. And so, but look, I would love your thoughts on it. And it's overtime, and it is intentional, and it's not going to fix everything, but it's sure going to be way better, spend less money, and set the foundation for a county for the future that has systems that work no matter who's there as chair. Like, you can have a bad chair, a good chair, they'll come and go, but the systems will work for the people they're
You
supposed
can
to.
get a few things fixed, everything
Yeah.
else, yeah.
Yeah.
And again, you didn't want to run.
No,
You didn't want to run. You were hoping they would step up and.
I was hoping at least one would step up and say, look, you got a plan, or I don't agree with it. Here's what I do differently, but I mostly agree. Here's how I can do it. How's we should do it? Help me. Like, great. But here I am. Here I am. And it's nice to actually be here and talk to you. See, there's some good things about it, but
Okay.
yes. Did you have one more question, and then we can all.
No, I'm not about that.
November 3rd. Yeah, it's this year. It's the general election, and ballots go out like a month before that, and yeah.
It is probably the most powerful position in Portland. Is
And
the
it
Multnomah
is,
County
in
Chair.
fact, it is, because the city is only doing homeless stuff and mental health stuff because the county
The
is
county
not
didn't pick it
doing
up.
its job.
Yep.
The county has all the money for these things, hundreds of millions, like I said, a year, and has the responsibility by law, and it's just not doing it.
Loretta has said that so many times.
Yeah.
It's not our job.
It's exactly, and it's not.
And the mayor doesn't have, mayor of Portland doesn't have that much power.
No.
But the Multnomah County Chair
Has
yes.
lots of.
Okay, where are you on the Trailblazers and the Kennedy and the
Motor Center.
I was wondering what that was going to come up.
well,
That's free tickets and we'll come back.
and the Keller
I don't see where it needs to be fixed right now. Can't they put this off a couple of years? Why is it so bad that it's gotta be fixed? I mean, the Knicks won a championship in a 100-year-old building.
They did.
So, give me a break in the thing. Is it so bad that it has to be fixed now? They can't wait a few years? Play it here for another 4 years.
The thing is that they have the owner of the Blazers and said if it's not fixed, I'm taking
But
it.
they're here for 4 more years. You can't put this on a back burner for a couple of years? And my question is, what's so bad about it that it has to be
and
renovated?
it was just renovated 6 years ago.
Yeah, so why, what's wrong with it?
Why does it need to be renovated?
They don't.
Because the new
The
owner
building
wanted
right
it.
that wants it fixed.
The new owner.
Take
Yeah.
his team and
I
go
don't
somewhere
know.
else then.
That's right.
He wants us to invest, not him.
Not him.
That's right.
He didn't want to put any money
So
in.
let's get a debate.
Okay.
Let's get
a debate.
Somehow.
Yeah,
And
a
Get
debate
over
would
going
be
to
excellent.
Get on
Yeah.
TV,
a
KGW.
real one, not
Yes.
just like give me your 1 minute talking point.
No, no.
What do you think about this? And ask 3 of us,
Yeah.
and then say, oh, okay, what do you think about this? And ask,
Yeah.
because we will.
I'd like
You
to
want
see
a real
list of
debate
what's
to
wrong
talk to the other candidates.
Okay, yes,
Yeah,
like
okay.
that. Yes,
Okay.
It's a really
Right.
gets the issues out, or
Okay.
not saying we should each talk for hours about whatever, but have it be, okay, you can ask a question of the other candidates about certain things, you know, like we can each ask each other questions.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think that
That'd be great.
Let's get a hold of the TV show.
Yes. And, yeah,
Wish you the best.
thank you so much. Thanks so much for the time and for having me here and for going over, and I really grateful for you. I'll come back to you.
We're sorry you left.
I would like to see the rest of it.
So our meeting is officially over.